let's talk about maintaining the processes. In the previous element, we learned about the management of change, which was one of the elements in handling um, the manufacturing process reliability. But the next thing we want to do would be to maintain the process. It doesn't make sense to make changes and to properly manage changes if after implementing, and properly managing these changes, we don't maintain the process. The goal of maintaining the process is to continue to see the value of enacting or implementing those changes. Now let's look at how that works in the manufacturing process reliability, or from the manufacturing process reliability. But first of all, we want to ensure that maintenance and reliability activities should improve the manufacturing or the production process. When we want to carry out the maintenance and reliability activity, including management of change and the implementation of change, preventive maintenance, corrective maintenance, process improvement, whatever we do should improve, not reduce the effectiveness of the manufacturing and production processes. We also want to ensure that we comply with standards and regulations, and they always exist for manufacturing processes. The more risky, the more hazardous, the more toxic the elements we use. But the elements we use as inputs or as output of the processes are, the more regulations we are likely to have. We would want to maintain our processes in line with the applicable standards and regulations. We want to understand industry standards and regulatory requirements and ensure that we comply to every one of them. And then, of course, there would be standards and specifications that lead to effectiveness and safety, right? So we want to translate our reliability program into effort, or our reliability program effort into improved performance by making sure we pay attention to standards and specification. Use the right standards, materials, use the right specification of materials, use the right standards and specification of equipment, use the right standards and specification of work rules and instructions to ensure that our output is good, right? Our output is good, our output is safe for people, and our output is, of course, compliant with the things that we maintain and strengthen assets and longevity, right? And then, of course, we want to use tools like benchmarking to compare your internal performance to others, particularly world-class performance. Use this as an opportunity to identify gaps and improvement opportunities. Gaps in your reliability program performance should be identified, should be communicated and acted upon, right? And that's just part of the continuous improvement program. We should also understand regulatory requirements. Regulations will outline legal requirements that can be able to improve our worker safety, product safety, and help that your products will work in the public interest, right? It also would consider environmental effects of your manufacturing process, right? So all of these documentations do exist. It's just whether the manufacturing process wants to will comply with them. Understanding and integrating regulatory requirements into your operation will save a lot of money from fines and litigation. That would allow us to be able to flow our assets, our resources into productivity. Continuous improvement culture. We want to integrate regulatory requirements with operational best practices to be able to manage risk and liabilities effectively. Now let's look at the sub-elements. First one, like I said, would be concept, operational excellence. We want to achieve the highest level of operational excellence amongst your peers. World-class manufacturing and reliability programs drives manufacturing growth and profitability. Again, we want to focus on the human aspect, leadership, and organization, right? You want to ensure that your systems are well led and well organized to be able to ensure what highest level of effectiveness. We want to demonstrate zero tolerance for errors, defects, and incidents, right? We also want to make sure that we demonstrate environmental stewardship and social responsibility. Ensure that you have success-oriented goals that can unify the whole organization for world-class performance. And again, this should begin with your mission statement, your vision statement, your strategic plan that is well communicated to all members of the team and all attendant stakeholders. Now let's go into the tools. We have federal regulations, Code of Federal Regulations. So we have OSHA, right? We have the U.S. Department of Labor, and then we have state level resources like the local chamber of commerce. Right now, all of these can be sources of regulation, right? All of these can be sources of regulation that can be able to guide us and help us to know what we should do, right? So the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, right, which is the OSHA, would provide guidelines for how we can be occupational safety and health. Okay, so we have 2.1, which is Code of Federal Regulation, or CFR. Now, let's look at them. Now, these are all regulatory codes and regulatory rules, right, that help guide us, right, guide us on what to do, right. We have useful references like OSHA, or Occupational Safety and Health Administration. We have the U.S. Department of Labor, state level resources like the local chamber of commerce, and these can provide sources or resources for regulation. And then we want to also make sure that we're measuring indicators like employee engagement, safety commitment engagement, and injury rates. We want to track and make sure that we act to record the downward growth of these negative incidents. We also have by downward growth, I mean negative growth or a decline, right? Like I said, I've always said that negative incidents in a well-functioning manufacturing environment should tend towards zero. In other words, if it's not zero yet, then it should gradually, or it should be declining towards zero. And then we have benchmarking, comparative analysis that evaluates performance against peers within the same industry. You want to choose the performance metrics that you want to benchmark against, as a unit cost, productivity. These are all metrics that you can benchmark against. What it does is that it helps you to see gaps, and gaps analysis will help you to identify areas for improvement and create your improvement plans. So we have gap analysis, right? We'll assess the difference between our current state, which is where we are, and our desired state, where we want to be. And it aims to close this performance gap by improving the process and increasing or improving the organization's capabilities. Helps us to be able to also identify areas where the organization is performing low due to waste. Right. So what we want to do is to be able to root out causes of inefficiency so that we can be able to improve the organization's performance. So yeah, it helps identify areas where performance exceeds the organization's ability to improve. Now, the sub-element 3 would be our processes. First, we have environmental health and safety. We want to ensure that there is a leadership in EHS, or environmental health and safety. We want to ensure that there's strong leadership, employee engagement, and leaders setting examples, safety, health, promoting and living and walking the talk, right? Walking the talk and being a very good example of health and safety. It's wanting to preach about the importance of health and safety. But if the people cannot link it up in how a leader manages his day-to-day activities, then it really will not go very far, no matter how much we preach, right? We want to also ensure that there's an integrated systems approach. We want to use an integrated resource plan to embed safety processes within the MRO functions and structure. And what does this mean? Right? Every tool, every technique, every material, every document, right, should working together to ensure that we are playing safe. We are using the right rules to be able to encourage safety. We want to embed safety procedures in our maintenance, repair, and operation space. Right? All the documents, all the tools, all the documents, all the tools, all the techniques, all the trainings. These are all an integrated system to be able to ensure that safety processes and procedures are understood, are followed, right? And then, of course, safety should be a fundamental aspect of manufacturing or process activity. When we talk about that, so things like training to bring about the inculcation of safety into the mindset of people, things like active risk management will bring about identification and active mitigation or elimination of risk. Things like policies and procedures will specify and outline how we should manage maintenance, repairs, and operations so that we are safe. Right. So every tool in the toolbox that can improve safety in the workplace and the work environment and the manufacturing environment should be put to use and properly integrated towards this goal. That want to monitor and continuously ensure that there's continuous improvement. Like I said, you want to look for performance measures that show improvement, right? Or that can point to opportunities for improvement, right? You want to ensure that you have leading and lagging indicators to monitor and drive the continuous improvement. Like we said earlier, aim for zero safety incidents every day. Keep it at zero. And if it's not at zero, you want to make sure that safety incidents should be seen as progressively declining so that we can be able to have a totally safe work environment. And then, of course, involve subject matter experts. Also, internal and external experts can lead the improvement team in specific safety categories like fire safety, slips and trips. We want to make sure that you have been able to integrate an internal team of experts or probably involve or hire external teams of experts to support safety in various categories. And then, of course, community engagement, world-class maintenance and reliability organizations move beyond safety within the organization to outside the organization to ensure that the workspace, beyond the workspace, the community experiences safety. Of course, for this to happen, then the organization's manufacturing process must not be a source of danger to the community that hosts the organization. But going beyond that, we want to take our initiatives, our trainings, our education, our techniques, our resources out into the communities to help them build a safer environment, safer community environment for our manufacturing systems. So help them build a safer world-class maintenance and reliability organizations extend safety initiatives beyond the workplace to take it into the community to be able to ensure that the environment. World-class maintenance and reliability organizations extend their initiatives beyond the workplace into the community. And also for processes, we have SMART goals. Make sure that when we are coming up with our indicators or when we are coming up with goals, performance measures, we want to make sure that these goals should be smart, that there are no goals that can be able to help us close performance gaps, and that these goals should be smart. We've spoken about that, specific goals, measurable goals, achievable goals, realistic goals. I prefer to use the word relevant goals because, of course, I believe that most people would agree that realistic and achievable closely mirror themselves. And then, of course, we have timed goals to pursue. It's goals. These are the methodologies we use to be able to strengthen the effectiveness of our goal management system. And thank you very much. When we return, we're going to talk on to Pillar A, right? The Pillar 2 we have completed, which is manufacturing process reliability. We have completed and it entailed about 4 pillars. When we return for pillar 3, we're going to look at equipment reliability, which will be considering what keeps our equipment reliable, and how do we source and install reliable equipment in the workspace. How do we make sure that our equipment are reliable, our current equipment are reliable? How do we source reliable equipment for using the workspace? And that's going to be the topic of discussion when we return with pillar 3. Thanks for being here with me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.